What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 145. And today is the All-Star Break special. We're going to break down the week that was in week number 15 for us. From right down that hallway, he's a three-time Bigs champion. He is a commissioner of the greatest fantasy baseball league ever constructed. And he's isolating away from me because I'm suffering the after effects of COVID-19. He is Ben Nisman. Benny, how you feeling this week, my friend?
A little better than you, unfortunately, Joe, but nice to see that you are recovering. But yeah, this was an amazing week for so many of the guys. Incredible upsets, remarkable comebacks, an all-star break sandwiched in between 10 crazy days, seven in the front, three in the back. There was opportunities taken, wasted, and a whole lot of drama. So much to unpack. So, Joe, as always, please, without further ado, lead us off, my man.
Let's get going, boys. It's going to be a busy couple of days for us here at Bigs HQ as we're going to do this show. Jason and I will handle the other four matchups of this matchup tomorrow, and then we're already right back into week 16, so we've got a lot of content coming for you in the next couple of days. Benny, we are going to kick this thing off with your matchup against Ari. How did you feel taking on your brother on the long week?
Look, I going into the matchup, I was pretty confident. I had taken two tough losses in a row to Henry and you, and I need something to turn around. And going into this matchup, I felt pretty comfortable, but this was a roller coaster. And I feel like that's understating it, man, with how everything was going, especially going into the break. Look, I'm just grateful to be coming out with a win, and we'll talk about how it all broke down. But yeah, this was something that should have been a lot easier, and it took a grind. And unbelievably, I'm able to break that little losing streak with this because Joe, there was a point when I was sitting on the couch and I looked at you, and you said something like, "Yeah, if everyone else plays to the middle and you're left behind, especially on a week where you're playing against the last place team, right? He's not a guy that's necessarily competing with you for a playoff spot, but that's one that someone would say that's one on your schedule you need to have." So, yeah, going into it felt good, excited, typically strong against my brother, but throughout the matchup, it was a grind, man, without some lucky things happening. And we'll get to all of it, but this required so much luck. And it's just the fact that Yahoo decided to do this differently, that this is the year that they decided not just go through normally. The end of the matchup is 7 days, take the break, and then have a continuous 10 or 11 days. Yahoo did it differently, dude, and it may have saved my season.
It was 13-5 after the first Sunday. It ends up being 12-8 going in, 13-7 in your favor coming out after the 3 extra days. Runs were tied, and you took that one. Home runs by a batter. You had the advantage, and Ari tied that for you. And 6 ticks on the batting average were Ari's, but you took that down, my friend. Close categories this week. You win by the run, the RBI, 2 stolen bases, less than 1 tick on the batting average, and a save. Ari wins by 2 triples and a loss. You guys tied in home runs given up by a hitter. Benjamin on your bench this week, you go a nice 12 for 45.
250?
It's a 267. It's close.
Oh my God, what does it matter with me? What did you say? 12 for 45?
Correct.
Oh, I was thinking you said 12 for 48 for a minute, and I just like did it quickly, but that was
Yeah.
terrible. 266?
267.
268, 267. Okay.
Yeah. With 8 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, 5 RBIs, 2 steals, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts, and 2 errors. And guess what?
None of it
Not a single
plays.
bit of it plays.
Yeah.
Your moves this week, my friend, you added Walker Buehler for Anthony Bender. He's on the mend. You added Michael Bush back, 4 for 6, 2 runs, a homer, an RBI, and a strikeout the day you got him for Tim Herron. You picked up Frankie Montas for an okay start at home against Colorado, dropping Luis Garcia. You added Kyle Freeland on the other side, who was good in Cincinnati against dropping Lucas Sims. You added James Paxton, who was not good, dropping Adam Ottavino. Added Chris Paddock for a good start in San Francisco, dropping Taijuan Walker. You added Mitch Spence for an okay start against the Angels, dropping Frankie Montas. And Jack Kohanowitz on the other side. I'd ask you who he plays for, but you already know that he plays for the Angels. And he was terrible against Oakland. You dropped that guy for Carson Fulmer, who was okay against Oakland, and dropped Mitch Spence for Phil Maton after the bell. Looks like you used all 10 against Ari this week. Pretty surprising. Your MVP this week, who is it, buddy?
Boy, well, it's hard not to just acknowledge the batting average of Juan Soto. Is it him?
It is a 410 with a 465 on base, 9 runs, 5 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, a steal, 4 walks, and 8 strikeouts. With a shout out to Nimmo and his 10 RBIs, but only a 195 average and 15 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter this week goes to your waiver claim of Anthony Volpe. 154 with a 267 on base, a run, a double, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. The Cy Young goes to Kyle Freeland. We talked about him. And the Cy Yuck goes to Nestor Cortez or the Kohanowitz clown. One of those two was not very good. Kohanowitz had an ERA of 15.75. Cortez, 8 2/3, 2 losses, 4 bombs, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, 11.42, and a 2.19 on the whip. For Ari on his bench this week, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, we'll get it out of the way early. It's 30 for 137.
Uh, 127, you said?
137.
137?
Mm-hmm.
236?
It's a 219 batting average. It's 11 runs, 7 doubles, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 5 steals, 7 walks, 38 strikeouts, and 2 errors. 11 runs plays, 7 doubles plays, 2 homers plays, 8 RBIs plays, and 5 stolen bases play.
Not to mention any one hit. One hit would do it.
Exactly. He could have used a move this week, but he did not. So we'll move on from there. The MVP this week, who is it, buddy?
Is it Cal Raleigh or is it
Yeah, you know it's
or
Cal Raleigh.
is it more than Paul Goldschmidt? Because I know he kicked the crap out of me too.
Yeah, Goldschmidt only hit 160. Cal Raleigh, 257, 333 on base, 8 runs, a double, 5 bombs, 10 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts. The guy murdered you this week.
Murdered. But only really counts for one category, and that's the home runs that were tied. That's really the only one that it ends up playing for. So if that's the one guy that kills, at least I didn't even lose the category, right?
Mm-hmm. Paul Goldschmidt's actually the least valuable hitter, a 160 with a 192, 3 runs, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, a walk, and 9 strikeouts. Only 1 walk over a 10-day matchup from Paul Goldschmidt. That's pretty surprising right there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the on-base percentage is not pretty either. But I get the fact that he hit the 2 bombs, and I think I was watching both of them. The one that he hits, the final one that he hit on Sunday, which ties the category, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's coming apart. It's coming apart on the final day. But alas, that's not what happened. Cy Young is, oh, I don't know. Let me tell you something. This cat um Washington, I realized it's a 6.55 ERA on the week because he had a bad start in the first one, but he was really, really impressive in the second start for Ari. So certainly not Mania. Is it Andrew Abbott?
No, it's going to be the combination of Blake Snell and Tobias Myers. 7 innings for Snell, 8 strikeouts, nothing earned, and 0-1-4 on the whip. Tobias Myers, 8 innings, a win, a walk, 6 strikeouts, nothing earned, and an 0.63. Those are both pretty damn good.
Yeah.
The Cy Young goes to Albert Suarez, 5 innings, a loss, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 7.20, and a 1.60. Though Joe Ryan was bad, Jake Irvin had a bad start, Sean Manaea wasn't good. Like, it wasn't a good week on the pitching side for Ari, but he won enough to keep it competitive here.
He did. And that's the way he was able to at least pull down some stats that I knew that I wasn't even going to have to go for. He said, you know what? If you pitch horribly enough, I'll just continue to throw my starters and feel comfortable because you're not going to win ERA, you're not going to win WHIP, and if you keep pitching, you're not going to win home runs and walks. So that's exactly what happened. But going into the break, Joe, like you said, I'm down 13-5. I'm looking at it and I'm like, you know what? I know Ari is not going to continue to make ads. How many did he make on the week?
Nothing.
Out of the 10 days, he didn't make one ad. So all I need to do is pick up starting pitchers as all of my ads, basically. Not to mention the first one is Walker Buehler. I even burned my first ad, Joe, on a guy that I'm not even going to be using in the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And then from then on, I was just thinking starter, 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 starter. What starter will I get? If I get him, will he pitch after the All-Star break so that I'm having him for 2 starts? I try to line it up that way as well. It worked out that way with Kyle Freeland and James Paxton. I left a good amount of stats on the bench here, Joe. And the fact that I'm able to pull out that Sunday and get just enough to actually pull this off, it's incredible. To win by 1 run with the horrendous play that my team has shown for this long. And I'm going to get into it, folks. Believe me, I'm going to get into it because it is that bad. In fact, I'm convinced at this point that no team has been worse than mine offensively, man. Like it, it is that bad, dude. Like let me just get into it. On Monday, which I believe is the first day of this matchup, it was what was the day of the week, bro? Do you happen to know?
Yeah, that's going to be the 8th, July the 8th.
July the 8th. All right,
Yes.
so I gotta hold
It's a
on, I'm almost
long
there.
matchup.
The
Yeah.
long ass matchup.
It ran from the 8th all the way to the 21st.
Okay. So just to give you an idea, coming out of that day, Sunday against Joe, I bet 226 with a 314 on base. That's just to like finish it off. But here's the first day of the matchup. 3 for 16. That's a 188. Then the next day I go 8 for 35. It's a 229 average. And we're on Wednesday the 10th. 7 for 39. That's a 179 average. So we haven't cracked 250 yet. Here we are on Thursday. We have a 231 average, 6 for 26. Now we go to Friday. 7 for 39. That's a 179 average. Still not cracking 250, Joe. Then on Saturday, some kind of power surge. 16 for 39. It's a 410 average. And then close it out before the break. 7 for 35 with a 200 average. Sure, you can get over 400 one day, man, but it's not going to make up for that much.
No.
Ari was hitting the crap out of the ball, not to mention. So it took, at this point, I'm pretty much convinced average is out. And I believe there's a chance of catching on base just because I've been walking extensively through all of this. We come back from the break, and I have one guy to bench, just one guy to bench. It's Anthony Volpe. He goes 2 for 4 with a double. The bench has been a whole different story, but I'll get into it later. Coming out of the break, I actually had a pretty good day. On that Friday, 11 for 31, that's a 355 average. The next day was Saturday. It's a 9 for 35. A 9 for 39 with a 231 average. Finally, closing out the matchup. to close it out. 5 for 32 with a 156 average. That might have been the worst one of all. A 250 on base percentage, and just one more significant hit with one less at bat. If I have one extra at, if I hit a sacrifice, I lose batting average, Joe. The fact that it came out this close was really intense. And I had to do a lot of things also to try to prepare for the following week. So I'm up 13 strikeouts with a pitcher going into Sunday, right? I got 2 guys going. He's got 3 guys going. I would rather not have to pick up another guy and burn another ad on a pitcher. One, because losses are pretty close. Like I'm losing it, but maybe he takes a loss going into Sunday, right? So I'm hoping, you know what? Maybe I can use my final ad going into next week and get away with getting strikeouts with just my 2 pitchers against his 3. I have a 13 strikeout lead, and I play with much more of a bullpen than he does. Okay. So he's got this awesome, insane pitchers duel going on with Andrew Abbott and Josh Irvin. And Abbott isn't striking out a lot of guys, but Irvin is. And this goes to the point where I'm like, well, one of them could grab a win, but I'm really, really good with wins. Maybe somebody takes the loss. That would be huge. It ends up going into such a pitcher's duel that both of them get the no decision. But James Wood hits a 3-run homer in the 8th inning to put Finnegan on the mound. And boom, with saves as close as they've been. Saves is going back and forth, Joe. It is one of the craziest stats of our matchup. The final is 9-8 in my favor. Finnegan starts it off. He gets that big save on Sunday, right? Okay, now I'm feeling good, right? Because I have a little lead. But alas, here comes Kirby Yates in a perfect situation. He now gets it. So, like, all right, now we're tied. But wait a minute. Now, all of a sudden, his other closer is in the game, and he's able to convert a save. Now that ties it. And now I'm thinking, oh my God, like that sucks. Like, I actually got 8 saves, and I'm not going to win the category. The Angels game is the one I'm watching. I'm glued in on this Angels A's game. And all of a sudden, the A's take the lead by 3. Well, it's a baseball game. Maybe the Angels find a way to take the lead. And they did. They get this crazy 5-run inning. And then even in the top of the 9th, they catch in another rally to score that 3rd run to put them ahead. And they have another run on 3rd base with less than 2 out. And then 2 punch outs in a row, one to Rendon that was like at his eyes and should have continued the inning. But oh my God, all of a sudden Estevez is in the game and he's able to convert the save to put me ahead. Dude, this is one example of some of the craziest crap that happened. I'm ahead by 1 run and 1 RBI going into the Sunday night game with average the way it is, and he has Anthony Rendon. He benches Rafaela, who goes 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run, but he plays Devers, who goes 0 for 4, man. He goes 0 for 4, and that actually swings batting average. He doesn't get a run. He doesn't get an RBI. He actually does nothing except completely flip batting average. One of the swing stats. That's something that I didn't expect either. I had to get an extremely, extremely late double by Soto in the Yankee game in a game that didn't matter because Fairbanks ends up closing the door after the Yankees get it just a little bit closer, not enough, but that RBI, that takes RBIs for me. Let me give you an idea of how damn close this batting average was. I said 1 at bat, right? Not just 1 hit. It was actually 1 at bat. So Ari's batting average, when I actually divided it on the calculator for hits for at bats, Ari's at a 2.3856. I'm at a 2.3867.
It was that damn close. Incredibly close, Benjamin, and
Incredibly
saves your
close.
season because While everybody else around you was winning, and some of us were winning big, you were actually on the bad side of the coin here. And you were discussing your bench. You've had a couple of weeks here where the bench has been a little bit interesting. Speak to that.
It's just when I don't know if you felt it. I feel like you've never really felt it for a long period of time, like that prolonged mental slump, but I'm sure a lot of guys have, where you just feel like no matter who you play, it's the wrong guy. And it turns out being that way. And it's just, it has felt that way for a long time, man. And it's gone into this matchup as well with Jimmy. We'll get into that matchup later on in the week. But um, this was as important as it could be. And I didn't even finish what I was trying to explain with the strikeouts.
Mhm.
Paxton has to be started now, man, because he pitched just enough strikeouts to tie me. I got buckets from that Angels guy that you were referring to. That was horrible. Like he
Mhm.
gave me two strikeouts, and I was thinking I wouldn't even necessarily have to use Paxton. I can use him as my guy to flip on Sunday to turn out to work for Monday. But no, I had to start Paxton. He ends up having a great game, and he ends up getting the win before getting released and off to the Red Sox again. But yeah, man, this required a lot of work, and the fortunate part of it was that I was playing a guy that I know wasn't going to be aggressive, and that's the benefit. Just knowing that, you know what, because it's a long week, I know he's got a lot of starters, but he ain't looking to line up more. Like I can just do that and just keep on matching him. You keep
Mhm.
on getting starters, whether they're bad or good. They just need to eat. If I can get wins, strikeouts, and innings pitched, all I got to hope is for my offense to provide. And the offense didn't really provide, Joe. We're talking about a 239 batting average, a 319 on base percentage. Like these are beatable numbers.
Oh yeah.
It's 40, like I just honestly, this was just fortunate that I was playing Ari Nisman this week versus anybody else because I'm looking around the league. Any other team murders me for 10 days. So although it just felt brutal at about Wednesday or Thursday, I'm like, Ari's team hasn't stopped hitting. I don't know what the hell is going to happen the following week, but all I kept thinking was, wouldn't it be great if like my team just breaks out after the break? Wouldn't it be great if I can find a way to get a win? Wouldn't it be great if I could just like load up on doubles, which is what happened. Like my team just exploded with doubles after the break. But to take average after the break, on base percentage after the break. Well, I'm not sure if it was in the lead with RBIs, runs, or almost tied, but I took them all, and I took them by one. I mean, it just doesn't get much closer, man. And when you get into the playoffs the way I have the last two seasons, by a stat and a half, by two, whatever it was last year, but it's been really close. And we all know how much we've experienced how much like every stat matters. So to find my way to wiggle my way into a win that was almost firstly, I was being doubled up and more. I almost end up doubling up my opponent in a matter of 3 days after a break to have to think about it and sit on it. Dude, it's just fortunate that I was playing Ari, a guy that I knew that I could be aggressive with and that I knew wouldn't actually participate against me.
Yeah. It's a good win for a good manager, put you in good shape to be pushing toward the playoffs. How you feeling about those playoff chances with 6 weeks remaining, my friend?
Listen, I'm sweating it out. It's a good question because the feeling changes all the time. Oh,
Mhm.
this opponent that I'm worried about is losing, but the next day, all of a sudden, I'm hurt and he's doing better. Uh-oh, now I'm in trouble again. Oh, now this guy from the bottom is starting to climb. I have to worry about him now. It's a great question, Joe. So to answer it, I'll just say that I'm feeling better than I would have if this thing ended 13-5, but I'm still sweating it out for 7 more weeks. There's a lot that can happen in 7 weeks. So I'm just obviously for us it's now like almost 6 weeks because we only have
Right.
this day and tomorrow to go, but we don't know what the scores are going to be for this match. We have no idea. Everything can change drastically.
No
So
doubt.
just as far as how I feel about it, I'm not feeling great about it, but I'm not like it's over. Like I'm not like convinced I'm done. Like there was that feeling, there actually that feeling did exist in me when Ari was doing what he was doing against me. I'm not lying. Like I'm not lying to you right now. When Ari is beating the pants off of me and it's not stopping, it's not like I'm fighting back with good stats. I just told everyone what I was doing this entire matchup offensively. Like it's not realistic to even come back as many stats as I did in 3 days, but it's the bigs, and somehow, I was able to pull off what I can arguably say is one of the most memorable wins of my career. I know it's against Ari. I know it's week 15, week six. Is it week 16? Week 15.
15.
With 15. So I'm just, dude, I'm just thinking about how close this was to my season ending, or at least it
Mhm.
felt that way. And now I'm in a position where all I have to do is basically go 4-3 over the final seven. That should be enough.
That's comfortable. That's a comfortable feeling to know that you have to go 500 the rest of the way to make the playoffs. It's going to be a tight race. There's a lot of hungry managers in there, and it's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for here? They're all shrunk into a
Moxie,
yeah. Well, there's a lot of teams within a short window. So
yeah,
everybody's fighting to get in that window, and there's going to be some broken hearts this year.
no doubt. And don't you feel like more this year than any other year, you're noticing, and you do notice it in other years, but with this one especially, the spoilers doing their job. Like
Mhm.
you don't want to face Brian Lebo. Like you don't want to face Jason Ashby. You don't care if they're a bad team right now.
No, no, they're just as hot and hungry as anybody else looking to ruin somebody's season this year. It's going to be a crazy run to the finish. Those spoilers are not going to make it easy on you. If you see them on your schedule, you might think, "Oh, this will be a nice layup this week." Not not going to happen in this league, boys. We have got 16 hungry dudes all vying to ruin each other's season. Benji, let's move on to the next matchup, my friend. We're going to talk about my matchup with Bobby Russo. What'd you see here?
Well, I saw you come out of the gate really, really strong in the first Philly. It was Tuesday, I think, where the Phillies just like got on a roll. And you never really looked back, man. It felt like you just had your foot on the gas. The only thing that I did notice was there was a point where it just didn't make sense for you to keep on trying to go for stats, and you kind of just said, "Okay, Bobby, you go ahead and take innings," and you let that one go. You were on a boat this entire matchup. No, not this entire matchup, but a
No,
good portion of it.
the
And
first week I was here. I was here until the Sunday, and then All Star Game is when I got on the boat. That day I
right,
got on the boat.
right. So basically half the match when you think of time, right?
Mhm.
So look, the fact that you were able to play as well as you did under those circumstances, the fact that you win strikeouts by two with knowing you're going to surrender innings and Bobby still isn't able to catch it. I mean, you played this matchup about as impressively as I can remember this season. I mean, you really, really had to do everything as far as picking the right guy to play, picking the right guys to pitch. You threw to an under 2.8 ERA. Just really, really impressive work. I mean, the fact that whip is as close as it is, there's a lot to be said of the way that you managed your pitching this week. Incredibly impressive.
Thank you, sir. I agree. I greatly appreciate that. On Sunday, Bobby had a 16-5 deficit to face. Again, you mentioned it. He took innings and tied up wins, making it 14-6. On Sunday, he did flip the innings and got 2 wins to tie the category. 2 wins on a Sunday to tie the category. I felt pretty confident I was going to walk away with that category. I get a tie. I'm not mad about it. It's just one of those like, oh, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, yeah, but if he's going to throw those kind like in that much bulk, like there's more of a possibility that that could happen. It's just fortunate that they weren't so good that he actually flips with also because it's
Right.
1.20 to 1.25. One bad inning, by one of your pitchers, or one more scoreless inning from one of his pitchers, he breaks that one too. So
Mhm.
it is what it is. You didn't lose that category. So
Certainly. Certainly. Close categories this week. I win by the triple, 3 losses, 2 strikeouts, 5 ticks on the whip, and 4 relief appearances. Bobby wins by 4 runs, 2 doubles, 2 stolen bases, and 2 errors, and we tied in wins. For me on my bench this week, Benjamin, it is a 13 for 42.
326.
It's a 310 with 7 runs, 4 doubles, a steal, 3 walks, and 9 strikeouts. The 7 runs and the 4 doubles count. I lost each of those by 4 and 2, respectively. Nothing else plays. I used 6 of my ads this week. Didn't have to go crazy against Bobby this week. I dropped Jesus Sanchez, Calvin Fauché, and Andrew Haney. Picked up Brent Suter for a clean relief appearance. Dropped Lucas Ursig for Sam Mole for a clean relief appearance. Dropped Mole for Jake Diekman. Yeah, right. Dropped Jake Diekman. And added Jorge Lopez for a 2-inning clean relief appearance. Dropped Lopez for River Ryan from a boat while I'm on a boat. Added Aaron Bummer for a clean relief appearance. And then dropped Brent Suter and Donovan Solano to finish out the week. My MVP this week is going to be Trey Turner, 361 average with a 410 on base percentage, 9 runs, 5 homers, 12 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. 3 errors is a little ugly. Shout out to Anthony Santander's 4 homers and 9 RBIs as well. My offense just raked this week. The least valuable hitter is going to be Ben Rice, who's no longer on the team. A 114 with a 238 on base percentage, 4 runs, a double, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 6 walks, 16 strikeouts. The guy was mired in a 4 for 45 slump after his 3 homer game back in early July. So he's off the team now, and I'm doing catcher roulette. Oh well. The Cy Young this week. Welcome back, Garrett Cole. 12 innings, 2 wins, a homer, 2 walks, 15 strikeouts, a 150 and a 108 with a shout out to Framber Valdez's 16 strikeouts over 12 and 2/3. The Cy Yuck goes to Jalen Beeks, despite a win and a save, had a 1350 with a 240 across 4 relief appearances. And shout out to Josh Hader's 5 saves over 5 relief appearances, all clean. For Bobby on his bench this week, Benjamin, he goes 0 for 6.
Okay.
Very nice. Just a walk, none of it plays, but he did bench a Bybee start that would have flipped the wins and the strikeouts. So that's
And maybe, I mean, would it have flipped whip though? Was it good enough
it's
to flip
possible.
whip?
Possible. For his moves this week, he only used 3 of them in a long week. He dropped Jonathan Cannon and Carlos Carrasco for Genesis Cabrera for a clean relief appearance. Dropped Ronnie Marinara sauce for Carbon Malajensky. Sure. 2-inning relief appearance. He drops Joe Adele for Nick Martinez, clean relief appearance, and then drops Nate Pearson. His MVP this week is Sal Frelick. 385 with a 448, 5 runs, 3 doubles, a triple, 2 RBIs, 2 steals, 3 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. A good week from that guy. Not a good week from JP Crawford. Can I not find him? There he is. 167 with a 231, 7 runs, a double, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts, and an error, and a trip to the IL, it looks like. That's not fun. The Cy Young goes to Michael King, wherever he is. There he is. 13 innings, a win, a loss, 2 walks, 15 strikeouts, a 138 and an 054. And the Cy Yuck goes to Logan Webb. 11 innings, 2 losses, 2 bombs, 5 walks, 8 strikeouts, a 9 and a 191. He gave up 11 earned runs across 11 innings. Benji, this was a grind for me, man. Even if I did get the blowout win here, Bobby is always a hard guy to face up against. And I did happen to see him as this week began. We had him over to Biggs HQ prior to my trip. was good to see him, good to have him over, and good to beat him. I feel pretty
Yeah.
confident about my playoff chances here now, especially locking up 3 and setting my sights on Josh Haber for that bye. It's going to be a push. I'm going to try to get there, but I'm feeling pretty confident right now.
Yeah, I would too. Look, we'll get into Bobby in a moment, but if we could just focus in here, you got Ari this week, then you finish with Josh, Jimmy, Frank, Cody, Jason, and Adam. Jason, you've owned for a really long time. That's been documented. Um, you have yet to ever beat Adam, interestingly enough, and that's your final matchup. But I would feel confident on you also, Joe. And one thing that needs to be addressed is just how strong your pitching has been consistently against opponents. I'm going to run down some numbers for you right now, and see if you this something like this even like was something that occurred to you, and maybe there's even something that surprises you. Innings pitched against opponents, 11-4. Wins,
Nice.
7-4 with 4 ties. Losses is 9-5 with 1 tie. Saves, 13-2. Home runs, 7-8. Walks given up, 7-5 with 3 ties. 8-7 in strikeouts. 9-6 in ERA. 8-7 in WHIP. 13-2 in relief appearances.
That feels pretty damn good to hear. I'm actually surprised it's that good in saves, but yeah, it's a hell of a pitching staff.
Yeah, man. And the fact that the only under 500 one is home runs given up, and it's 7-8. It's not like you're getting crushed in that one. One thing that's important to note is that you are now the current leader in total home runs in our league. An astounding 144 home runs have been recorded for Joe Schubert so far. Second place would be Mike Haber with 141, and then Jason with 140. So you're mashing the ball like hell. You haven't stopped pitching since the beginning of opening day. And yeah, man, it's been pretty impressive watching your team do what it's doing these last couple of months. It's a scary team. It's got the pitching, it's got the bullpen, it's got the hitters. We know that. It just made a trade to complete a combination, and you should be feeling pretty great. On the other end, how are we feeling about Bobby right now? Because we've talked about how challenging the schedule is. He's got Josh now, he's got Frank next week, then Jason, Mike Haber, Brian Lebo, Henry Collins, and then it's me to finish the season. How how um how much can he sustain a tough loss here against Josh going forward with the rest of that group? Frank being the next
It's
one after.
it's pretty shaky right now, and that murderer's row that you just mentioned with Josh, Frank, and you to finish out the season, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be
Yeah.
some really tough outs there, and he's going to have to play his ass off in order to get into this thing. He's set himself up for a run at this thing. He's got as much of a shot as anybody else, but he's just going to have to get this thing done. I wonder if maybe it's time for him to get a little more aggressive. Only making 3 moves over a 10-day matchup is a little bit surprising to me. But at the
Okay.
same time, Bobby's never been one to be that aggressive. He was even told us that he's not the type of guy who sets up for the next week. He's not the type of guy to use all of his moves. He's the type of guy who's going to have the most amount of at bats, which I played to my advantage this week. Um, it just Bobby knows what kind of game he plays, and it's just whether or not those guys are going to execute for him.
Yeah. So some things to note. He's in the middle of a lot of these stats, but something that he is pretty strong in. His on-base percentage is third in the league, a 339 batting average. His batting, sorry, 339 on-base percentage. His batting average is fourth in the league. It's a 262. Um, he tends to walk more than most guys. He's third in the league in walks with 349. I need to talk about something that's very, very, very important that happened, and not too many people picked up on it, if any. I know that I did, And it was something that just it really surprised me from a guy that's been in the league now. This is his seventh season, and it's just an oversight. And I was very surprised. And it's something that actually happened to Frank a couple of years ago. And it's that Bobby had been, and we know he's been rostering a lot of guys on the IL.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point on June 11th, going into June 12th, he had been playing using both of the IL spots. And on June 12th, something happened. And all of a
July,
sudden,
right?
Bobby,
July 12th?
oh, sorry, did I say June?
You did.
Okay. On July 12th, all of a sudden, Bobby stopped using both the IL spots. It was a complete oversight by him. I think it was. He doesn't actually end up filling that spot until JP Crawford goes down on, I believe, the 24th. So we're talking about 12 fantasy days. There is that little break in between, but where he could have been utilizing one more roster spot. I
Mm-hmm.
remember Frank coming to me. I don't know if it was 2022 or 2021, but the same thing was going on. And I couldn't talk to the guy because he's calling me. He wants to talk about fantasy. I'm like, Frank, I can't talk to you right now because something glaring is in front of me and I can't talk to you about it. So
Mm-hmm.
like we didn't speak until I noticed that two IL spots were being used. And I called him right away. I'm like, okay, now we can talk. And he's like, oh man, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I missed it. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why Bobby missed this, but this might have been the difference in a few stats. And if this comes back to bite him, I think this is something that at least I'm going to acknowledge. It's one of those things that, it's so easy to like not notice it, but because I've been so in fear of Bobby, and he's one of a couple of managers that I think are hungry for that playoff spot enough that they're going to be great enough to get it. I've been noticing, and it's just one thing. I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe Bobby's not using both IL spots right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just something that I noticed. Like it could end up being something that really comes back to bite him because you look at these stats, like maybe that's used on another pitcher that ends up getting a win. Maybe it's a pitcher that does well enough that flips a whip, right? There's
Or
maybe
a
he
couple
gets
of strikeouts.
a couple of strikeouts, right? Or maybe he gets some hitter that ends up pulling off a triple. You never know, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Anything's
just
possible, but you got to
anything's
utilize
possible.
you got to use the roster spots. You got to utilize
Yeah.
the roster spots
How many
correctly.
how many ads did he use on the week?
3.
Three. So if he knows that he's got like that extra spot, I mean, batting average is 241 to 251. If he's turning out hitters and they happen to be clicking, you turn around batting average as well. We mentioned the strikeouts. We mentioned, like it just seemed like a really, really major oversight. And in the time when you're telling me in a long week he used 3 ads, he certainly had the ability to use some, and he put it here. So it's just it's something that is surprising, and I wonder if this is something that might end up costing him later.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It will when the story is finished, we'll know whether or not this cost him and whether or not this is something he's going to look back on and regret. 7 in a row for me, Benjamin. It feels like deja vu all over again. Last year it was 10 straight to the bye. This year it's 7 straight so far, and Ari on my schedule right now. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah, and how about that? If you actually manage to pull this off, we're talking about 11 playoffs in a row. That I don't know if that'll ever be done again, dude. Like, and the streak is still going after this
Mhm.
year if you do this. But and honestly, man, if you end up getting that by this year and make it 8 straight for the semifinal, that's another one I don't think is ever going to be broken. So you got two big time records going, not to mention going for number 5 championship. It's going to take a while till that's ever broken. So good luck to you, man, the rest of the way. But as of right now, it might feel like, pardon the pun, I know you were just on the boat, but it just feels like you're cruising.
I am, in fact, cruising, though I feel not all that great. You know who's not feeling great after this week, my friend? Mike Haber, who takes down a rare 11-8 loss here. What'd you see in this matchup against Adam Lowenstein?
Adam had to just keep the gas going and was very, very careful on Sunday. It felt like he didn't really know how to handle the pitching on the final day. But you got to give him credit, man, because Mike threw down 15 home runs, and that wasn't enough to get the category. Adam hit the crap out of the ball on like 293 average, a 379 on base, 63 runs, 52 RBIs. Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, when you look at, okay, I guess I got nothing to lose by pitching guys because my pitchers have been shit all week. I might as well go for innings, strikeouts, wins. Wins is the only one that comes kind of tricky to work to get, but he got all three of them. So then all that mattered was, how can I get the rest of these guys? He wasn't going to win, certainly wasn't going to be able to win relief appearances. As I wonder if you or Mike Haber cracked the 10-day record for relief appearances with how many you guys got this week. But as well as the fact that he knew he wasn't going to win saves. So if you knew you're not going to win relief appearances or saves off the bat, you better get innings and strikeouts and hopefully get wins. He got all three of those, and then his offense matched enough.
Yeah. On Sunday, it was 13-6 in Adams' favor going in. It comes out 11-8. Mike Haber makes a little bit of lemonade here. He flips home runs by a batter. Adam had a one homer advantage. Mike takes that. Mike also flipped whip, which Adam had a one tick advantage. He wins that by 7. Close categories this week. Mike wins by the homer, 3 steals, and 7 ticks on the whip. Adam wins by 4 walks, an error, and a win. They tied in home runs given up by a pitcher and triples. For Adam on his bench this week, Benjamin, 17 for 67.
My
These
God.
numbers suck. Yeah, these numbers
Oh
suck. It's over
my
10
God.
days, man.
I don't know. 67, you said?
Yeah, 17 for 67.
214?
254.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 7 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 4 walks, 13 strikeouts, and 3 errors. Good job keeping the 3 errors out of your lineup and the 13 strikeouts. You lost those, or you won those by 9 and 1 respectively. But the 2 homers certainly sucks to see in the lineup when you lose that by 1. Adam used 7 moves this week. He dropped Max Schumann and Emerson Hancock for Harrison Bader, 1 for 3 with a run. He adds Michael Conforto, 0 for 3 with a walk and 2 strikeouts. Adds Brian Hoeing for a 3-inning opening experience against Houston. It was not good. He drops Harrison Bader for Max Schumann, 1 for 2 with a walk and a strikeout. Drops Brian Hoeing for David Peterson, 6 innings, a win, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, a 1-1-7 against Washington. Thank you, sir. Drops Trevor Richards for Anthony Bender, who did not appear, and drops Mitchell Parker for Marco Gonzalez, who was benched. His MVP this week, Brent Rooker, Brian Reynolds, Max Schumann, looks like Riley Green. Whole bunch of guys were really good for him this week. We're going to go ahead and highlight Brent Rooker, who hit 438 with a 525 on base, 12 runs, 4 doubles, 4 homers, 13 RBIs, a steal, 7 walks, and 10 big strikeouts. The least valuable hitter this week is going to be William Contreras, a 152 with a 243 on base, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, and 11 strikeouts. The Cy Young goes to Nick Pivetta, 12 and 2/3, a loss, 3 walks, 18 strikeouts, a 284 and an 087. With the Cy Young going to Trevor Richards, who was bad, and Kikuchi would have been a whole lot better if he started him on Sunday. But Kikuchi was not good in his 2 appearances either. For Mike Haber on his bench this week, Benjamin, it is a 13 for 54. It's not helpful. It's not helpful, I
No,
know.
it's not. 264?
241.
Oh,
10 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, 19 strikeouts and an error, and none of it plays. Not a single bit of it plays.
Wow.
He used 6 ads this week. He dropped John Gray for Angel Martinez, 1 for 6 with a solo homer. He drops Reed Garrett for Sam Henches, who had a bad relief appearance. Dropped Henches for Tim Herron, who had a clean relief appearance. Dropped Luis Garcia, who went to the IL, for Adbert Alzolay, who is on the IL. He drops Connor Wong for Porter Hodge for a clean relief appearance. Drops Shane Baz for Andre Palante to set up for next week. The MVP this week goes to Marcell Ozuna, 410 with a 429 on base, 9 runs, a double, 5 homers, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, with a shout out to Aaron Judge, who had 12 walks and a 537 on base percentage. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. The least valuable hitter goes to Jonah Heim, 100 with a 143 on base, a run, a homer, 3 RBIs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. The Cy Young goes to Denel Nunez, who's now on the IL for the New York Metropolitans. 4 2/3, a save, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, a 193, a 129 across 5 relief appearances. Really nice. The Cy Young, however, goes to Trevor McGill, who was not good, if I could find him. There he is. 3 1/3, a loss, a save, 2 bombs, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a 1080, and a 150. Benjamin, Mike Haber is atop the standings yet again, has been since like week 6, and is cruising to another first round bye. Can anybody stop this juggernaut? And is he going back to back?
Back is, I mean, that's just so circumstantial. I have no idea. The fact that he's already in the semifinals for, I mean, barring something catastrophic, uh, he should be in the final four again. It would be 2 years in a row for him, 3 out of the last 4. Uh, but it's amazing right now what he's able to do against his opponents in general. Like, firstly, he's undefeated in saves. He's 13-0 with 2 ties. 12-3 against opponents in relief appearances, 9-6 in walks given up. Everything else is kind of around 500, maybe a little bit under. But we mentioned he's second in the league in home runs to you. He's 13-2 against his opponents in home runs, 13-2 against his opponents in RBIs, 9-5 in stolen bases, 8-7 in walks, and 9-5 in strikeouts by a batter, 10-5 in average, 10-5 in on base percentage, 9-5 in runs. I mean, the the thing is, like, it was 13-7 going into Sunday, and what I love about the bigs and what I love about the bigs is that, firstly, it becomes 11-8 because it's Mike Haber and he's going to find a way to win those categories. But Adam wins. And that's kind of cool that, like, at the same time, like, yeah, you're not going to win all those stats, but you'll get the win at least. Like, that can happen in the bigs where a team and a manager that's not as strong as the other team and the other manager can still find a way to get a win. Even in the long week, it can still happen. But for it to be like a double up, it's going to take such a grind. It's going to take so much work. And as you said, Adam, he had half as many moves as Mike made. Mike didn't even have to make all 10. So this is a good loss for Mike, nothing tragic. For Adam, it's almost like the fact that it was 13-7 and then it becomes 11-8. It's almost like not that great because, firstly, Mike is not a guy that he's going to have to compete with for a playoff spot. Mike is in already. And just the fact that he loses out on those stats, the timing isn't great because he's got 7 weeks left. Adam has to face Brian Lebo. He's down 14-6. We don't know what the hell it's going to be by the end of the weekend, but he's 14-6 right now. Then he's got Henry, me, Ari, Jimmy, Cody, and then he finishes with you. Besides
Ooh. Yeah.
Ari, man, I just don't. He doesn't. He's not an aggressive manager already, right? Like, I love that Adam has been like really, really nasty against opponents, in certain categories like walks, right? He's like pretty much right there at the top. On base percentage, he is number one in the league with a 352 on base percentage. In batting average, he's in batting average, he's number one in the league with a 280 batting average. So he's right at the top with batting average and on base. It's just that if you're not going to use at least 5 ads a week, it's going to be hard to compete because you're not going to be grabbing that extra stat here and there to get you closer against opponents. So it just seems right now that although he's had a nice little run, he was an over 500 team last year in his first year back after skipping 18 seasons. But I mean, it just seems like the numbers, like a lot has to happen in order for him to sneak in here.
Yeah, and he's going to have to beat a whole lot of good teams in the final 7 weeks, one right after another. There's not a whole lot, there's not a reprieve in that schedule. That was an ugly sounding schedule. Run that again for me if you have it right in front of you.
I actually do. It's Brian Lebo right now.
Mm.
Henry, me, Ari, Jimmy, Cody, you.
Yeah, that's 6 really tough matchups, including Brian Lebo this week and Ari. That is not a great lineup to be facing when your season's on the line. Speaking of seasons on the line, Benjamin, we're talking about Kostas Paragios and his matchup with Josh Haber this week. What'd you see here in the 11-10 matchup?
Well, Josh is soon going to be coronated as the comeback kid because it just feels like he finds a way to win these matchups that he's really down and out in. And like you mentioned, a lot of these long weeks they play to the middle. This is actually an example where it happened. It didn't really happen as much on this fantasy season as it did in past. I mean, it for whatever reason on this matchup, there were a lot of close stats, like a
Hmm?
lot of them. And at the end, Josh finds a way to sneak away a win. If this ends up being something like I don't remember what the score was going into the break, but I know Kostas had a fairly substantial lead. I could be wrong, but for Josh to find a way to turn that around in 3 days, that's telling to the skill of the manager right now. It doesn't really surprise me that much, but it's just like it's still wow. Like it's only not impressive because like we're starting to have this expectation of Josh Haber that he is one of the best managers in our league. But
Hmm.
like when you actually stare at these numbers and what he had to get through, the fact that he wins batting average by 7 points after all of what went down. Um, he almost even manages to win strikeouts by a batter, but he had to go for some things. So I give him a lot of credit here, man, because like Costas was getting really, really hot, and he could have found his way like very close to 500 if Josh gets beaten up this week. It's not what happened. Josh found a way in these last couple of days to pull it off.
Yeah, Costas was leading 11-9 going into the Sunday, and Josh comes away with the 11-10 victory. On Sunday, Josh hits 364 compared to Costas' 176. That flips batting average in his favor because Costas had a 9-tick advantage. Josh also takes a win thanks to Hayden Birdsong, which gives him the win in that category as well. So again, 11-9 Costas coming in, 11-10 Josh going out. Close categories, Josh wins by the triple, 7 ticks on the batting average and the win. Kostas wins by 4 home runs, a strikeout by a batter, 2 errors, 2 losses, and 3 walks by a pitcher. They did not tie in anything. For Josh on his bench this week, Benjamin, he goes 7 for 55.
163.
127. 3 runs, a double, a homer, 5 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, 16 strikeouts, and an error, and none of it plays. A 7 for 55 with a 127 batting average. That is damn impressive over 10 days.
Yeah.
His moves this week, he used all 10 moves this week, and he dropped Dean Kramer for Justin Slayton, who got placed on the IL, And Yilber Diaz, 6 innings, a win, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, a 150 and a 1 against Toronto. He drops Ben Lively for Eduardo Rodriguez, who's still on the mend. Drops Pedro Avila for Greg Weissert for an okay relief appearance. He drops Weissert for Tyler Phillips, 6 innings, a win, 2 homers, 5 strikeouts, a 6 and a 1 against Oakland, and drops Jordan Walker. He adds Jesus Sanchez, which was a waste because he dropped him for Jake Berger, 2 for 4 with 2 runs, a double, a homer, 2 RBIs, and a strikeout. He drops Tyler Phillips for Lawrence Butler, 3 for 4 with a double and 3 RBIs, and drops Justin Turner for Hayden Birdsong, 6 innings, the win, a homer, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts, and a 3 with an 067 in Colorado. In Colorado, the balls of you, sir. The balls of you. And then he drops Yilber Diaz for Austin Gomber for week 16. His most valuable hitter this week is going to be, of course, Jarren Duran, who had himself just quite a week. 438 with a 472 on base, 6 runs, 5 doubles, a homer, 4 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and 8 big strikeouts. The least valuable hitter goes to Adolis Garcia, 167 with a 231 on base, 2 runs, a bomb, an RBI, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. The Cy Young goes to Birdsong with his really nice pitching performance in Colorado. And the Cy Young goes to Pedro Avila, who's now off the team, who was terrible in his relief appearance. For Kostas on his bench, Benjamin, he goes 23 for 88.
277.
261. 261 with 10 runs, 3 doubles, 4 homers, 12 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 6 walks, and 22 strikeouts. Good job getting those strikeouts out of your lineup because you won that by 1. And you probably want at least 5 of those runs in, so good luck getting all of those in there.
All right. So he had a good week, actually, on his bench, technically.
Yeah, pretty good week. Only 4 moves to speak of this week. He drops Dylan Floro for Keibert Ruiz, 2 for 4 with a double. Jake McCarthy gets dropped for Leody Taveras, 1 for 3 with a run, an RBI, a steal, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. He drops Spencer Torkelson for Davison De Los Santos, who's also on the NA. He drops Freddie Fermin for Tyler Stevenson, 2 for 5, 2 runs, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, and a strikeout. And finally drops Leody Taveras. The MVP this week is a name we haven't said very much this year. It's O'Neal Cruz, 333 with a 320 on base, 5 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 8 strikeouts, and 2 errors. Not great at all. The least valuable hitter goes to Matt Olson, 077 with a 119 on base percentage, 2 runs, a double, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, and 10 strikeouts. The Cy Young goes to Brandon Pfaadt, 13 innings, a win, a walk, 11 strikeouts, nothing earned, and an 038. And the Cy Young goes to newly acquired New York Metropolitan Ryan Stanek, 2 1/3, a loss, a homer, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, an 11.57 and 2.57 across 4 relief appearances. We know Josh is pretty much safe for the playoffs at this point. It's Kostas that is the question. He is on the climb, but he's got a lot of work to do if he really wants to make this thing finish up the way he wants it.
A lot of work to do, and the schedule is the same as we talked about with Adam, just a different order. He's got 20 this week. Then it's Jason, Mike Haber, Ryan Lebo, Henry Collins, me, and then Ari Nisman as the finisher. He doesn't have to face Joe Schubert like Adam does, but it's basically the same group of guys that that Adam has to deal with. He does get Ari on the final week. That's a reprieve, but his season is really these next 6 weeks. Like, it's really, can he get himself somewhere at least close to 500? He's got a lot of work to do just to get there, and he was feeling pretty confident after that matchup against Bobby. I know that, but still 500 at that point. Like, it's still not. You need like 2 weeks to do it. So he's down 14, right? Minus 14, under 500. He looks like 9.5 out of a spot. Let me see.
Yeah,
6 to 9.5 out of a spot. with these guys on a schedule for the next 6 weeks, to me, it's not likely. It's possible. It's just not probable. I feel like I don't really love. I don't love his whole team, like his whole roster. Like there are pieces of it that I like, but like
Mhm.
I in general, like I'm not a believer in a lot of the guys that he believes in. And as a result, it's hard for me to ever know like who's the right guy to play that day. Who's like Josh Lowe and Caballero. These are guys that he's had on the stand. Josh Lowe, I know he drafted, but
Mhm.
Lamont Wade is a guy that he really was excited to have. Jesse Winker is a reason that I won the 2021 championship, but
Mhm.
he hasn't been really that great in a couple of years. He's been great right now. Rengifo, he's been really hot. Matt Olson, of course, he's good for a couple of bombs. He hit one today, but he's been really cold. Like I just don't love the pieces of this entire team. And I respect the fact that he had too many guys on the bench. He was finding a hard time to get a role for Bryson Stott. He moves him for Seth Lugo, who's in the running for the Cy Young candidate. So I, I understand what he had to do. He's made beautiful trades this far, like so far, but he came out of the gate so badly that it was going to be hard for him to really find some kind of consistency. Um,
Mhm.
he lost three in a row to start the season, and then he started to pick it up. He then won four out of five, then a tie, a loss, a win, two losses, a win, and a loss. But starting out right out of the gate, losing 12-9, 11-10, 13-6. It was hard to ever climb back after that because he had such a challenging schedule going forward. But I got to give him credit, man. He was over 500 last year. It was only like two or three over 500, but he did do it in a year where there were so many teams that were over 500. He was one of them. He's a finalist from 2021, and he got cheated on for the trade that he made with Brendan Doyle, like a lot. And so far, like Kedel Marte has been freaking solid. Doyle, we know he's found time for Lamont Wade, and he's winning this trade so far. That's just factual.
Yeah, no doubt. Julio Rodriguez is just name only at this point. He's just not having a good year. And the guys that Costas got when he sold them off have been carrying him to this second half surge. And if this puts him over the top and into the playoffs, we will look back at that trade and say Costas slam dunked it.
Yeah, I mean, it's it just at the same time that we know that he's winning the trade. If he doesn't end up getting in the playoffs with it, like I feel like something that might be forgotten. Like
Yeah.
there was like a lot of drama that it got involved in this trade, and like, well, remember, like, oh yeah, that was one that he made with Cody, and then it was canceled, and then it came back. But if if it doesn't end up being a playoff, like a playoff appearance, then did it really work? I mean, he needed to do something else, but
Yeah.
look, he was at this point. I think he needed to at least come away with a win against Josh. But alas, we need to be talking about how great Josh Haber is right now. He's on he's on the pace right now to get in the playoffs for the third time in 4 years. Josh Haber,
Mhm.
third time in 4 years, man. When it took him 15 years to get in for the first time. I mean, that's beyond special. If he can pull off getting this by and be in the final four for 2 years in a row, Josh Haber, like that's so incredible. And he really
Mhm.
deserves it, man. When you see what he's been doing week to week and how he pulled off this comeback as well as the one against um, Jay Ferraro earlier in the year, he's really found a way to just maintain consistency the whole way. He starts this season 15-5, 12-7 wins. Then he takes two losses in a row, 11-10, 12-9. Nothing big. And then
Nope.
he starts this crazy streak, starting with 11-8 over his brother, then 11-9, 14-6, 13-7, 10-6, 12-8. He wins six in a row until finally losing to Cody 11-9. But he responds real quickly against Adam, a 16-4 win, 10-9 win on Jay, 11-8 win on Mike Sherman, and now an 11-10 on Kostas. So he had a six in a row streak, and now a 4 in a row streak. The guy has won 10 out of 11 weeks. I mean,
Mhm.
he's been absolutely astonishing, and he's right now arguably the front runner for manager of the year. Like I know Mike Haber is having an incredible season, but with the amount of grind that Josh puts into this every single day, look, Mike Haber has 115 moves. Josh Haber has 145. I mean, that's
30 more. That's
30
two
more
more a
moves.
week.
Right. So you want to look at it like, wow, it's more impressive to be doing it with less ads. In some way, that's true, but in another way, like if you're making that many ads and you're at the top, that means those ads are working. And
Exactly.
he's been maximizing them, man. I mean, I you just can't say any like I can't say enough about Josh Haber because the consistency now is not just weekly, it's annually. And it's just something that I have to acknowledge and it has to continue to be brought up because Josh was a bottom feeding. It's like Ari and like Sherman have been now for the last 4 years. Like that's what Josh was in the beginning of this league. Like a lot of guys don't understand that or know that how
Hmm.
bad Josh was for the first 15 years of this league. And it's just it's such a it's such a pleasant it was a pleasant surprise in 2021. And then in 2022, like he got hot again. He didn't make the playoffs. He was very close in 2022, but
Hmm.
it was still another great year in 2022. And he just continues to do this. And it's really been amazing to watch. And he's now one of these managers where, and I said it in previous weeks, like you're in fear when you know he's going to be on the schedule.
Oh yeah, you don't look forward to a Josh Haber matchup like you did years ago because that was just a layup week after week. I mean, we documented on the show in the early incarnations of the show a team where he had Haber. What was it?
It was Kurt Suzuki and Jan
Jan Gomes.
Gomes. It was yeah, and he would never check it to see which guy was playing and which guy wasn't. And there was usually the X on the guy that was in his starting lineup. He just wasn't
Yep.
necessarily on top of it. Oh,
Yep.
I remember telling him this is a big deal. In 2010, I told Josh to take a breather because he really wasn't on top of it. I think it was 2009. He was just like really, and this is also, by the way, this was before it was on the phone, right? Like we all still had to go to the
Mhm.
computer every single time. Oh, run to the computer. And he was just like a busy guy that year. And I was like, dude, take the year off. Like just take a year off. You're back next year. And he was back the next year. He was right back in 2011. He was competing. The closest he ever had to a playoff is a 2007 scandal that occurred, and he would have been the guy that was in. So he's gone through a lot to get to the point that he's in, and now he's at the point where, there are some managers that have said, we should make divisions, and Josh should be one of those pillars in one of those divisions because he's one of the best managers. So that's the type of respect that he's gotten because of the accolades he's now had. Now he's the returning finalist from last year. So
Mhm.
you just have to respect the fact that this guy, from where he came in this league and where it had like what it had to get to. I'm not sure what clicked to get to the point, but it really started in 2020 in that shortened season where he was in my division and he was a pain in the butt. But like in 2021, all of a sudden, man, he was the guy. And yeah, he takes that loss to Kostas in the first round in 2021. But here he kind of shows like he is one of the best managers.
No doubt. No doubt about it. Speaking of best managers, should we do managers of the week?
Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We want to make the guys watch that second episode, so we're just going to tease it. If you really want to know who the managers of the week are, you're going to have to wait until the next episode, guys.
All right. Well, that's going to be tomorrow night with me and Jason. But until then, guys, Benji, thank you so much for being here with me, especially going through what I'm going through with COVID. I appreciate you masking up and staying socially distant from me.
You're welcome. Hey, I benefit more from that than you do. But yeah, man, it's I'm glad that we're able to actually spend some time together because I know how annoying and frustrating it was when I had COVID that I had to be all by myself. So, we're on the COVID community together. So I'm happy that we're on quarantine crew because dude, there's no one I'd rather be doing it with you. And there's certainly no one that I'd rather be talking fantasy baseball with.
I feel exactly the same. There's nobody else I'd like to be locked up in a house watching baseball all night long with than you, my friend. Guys, thank you all for being here. Without you, we would have absolutely nothing to talk about. So thank you for making the league exactly what it is. And until tomorrow, guys, it's been real, it's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you next time.